Hi, quick disclaimer for this video. I talk a lot about different fantasy species that I haven't really talked about before here or really showed it in my comics before, but I have a video coming up that's going to be talking all about that. So yeah, if you're confused about any of that, I'll have a video explaining about all of those species, but just wanted to let you know because I do talk about a lot of these fantasy species in a familiar tone. That's all. Bye. Hello everybody, it's your non-binary pal Christian TV here, and happy Pride Month! I have some really fun videos planned for this month and I'm excited to share. A while ago, while preparing for my website, which is up by the way, I started making these mini pride designs that I could use for stickers and mugs, and if you visited my shop already, you might know about them now. I of course recorded the process and wanted to tell you all about each one. So let's get started. Firstly, I started with deciding what the flags will look like in my style. I went with a marker-like swatchy style. This was pretty tedious to get all the flags designed worked out, color picking each color, making sure everything was blended evenly, and eventually I had all the flags I needed. There were more that I had planned than what I ended up going with, but I didn't want to go too insane, so I decided to cut those. But if there's a pride flag that you would like to see in a design, let me know and I can add onto this collection. And of course, these were going to include character designs. Originally, I was going to use OCs I already had, but there were several things about that plan that I didn't like and just didn't think would work well. So I switched gears and created a brand new design for each flag. Another important thing to note is that the characters being shown isn't the exact order that I drew them in, but it is just the order I'm showing you here now. So I started with the lesbian flag, which always has been a favorite color combo of mine. Originally, I had drawn this with one of my OC's old design, and yeah, that's what's being shown here. But when I decided to create original characters for all of these, I went back and changed it. But I didn't end up recording it, so we're just gonna deal with this one. I made this character a pixeling character with a fall theme, and drew some leaves and made sure I used the colors in the flag. Although this character probably wouldn't look like this if they were 100% original from the beginning, I still like the vibe of this one and think it fits. Next one was the gay or MLM flag. This one is pretty much the exact opposite color-wise from the last one, with the teals and blues, and of course I had to make an ocean-themed character. Basing this mer character off of my Endura species, of course, I feel like this character matched the best with their flag here, and the color placement was quite easy. For the background, I of course tried adding some algae-like shapes and some bubbles. I think it worked out pretty well. I like the shape and the framing of everything. And yeah, some of these characters are actually based off of pre-existing characters of mine, but I'm not going to tell you. I want you to see if you can guess. Our next one is the bi flag, which also has a color palette that I love, the pink, blue, and the purple. Although interestingly, while working on this, I realized quickly that the purple is much more dustier. I went with a spunkier character design with this really cute hairstyle I found on Pinterest. It's really cool, and a cyberpunk theme. This character is an android, and I chose that because I felt like the colors of this one was really fitting for the neon cyberpunk aesthetic. Included some glitchiness, and yeah, this one was really fun to create, and I like the design quite a lot. Now, of course, for the trans flag, with its pastel pink and blues, I knew a sky theme would be perfect, but I also wanted to include some butterfly imagery, so this character ended up being a mix of a pixeling character with kind of a Latourus one. I was worried from the sketch that they'd end up being way too big compared to the others, but that didn't end up being the case. Now, it's probably just me, but the pose does make this character seem a bit more femme when I was trying to make them look more androgynous. I do still think the design overall is pretty androgynous, but let me know what you think. If you feel like if more people also feel like it skews more femme, then I could maybe make a mask version. We'll see. Now, the non-binary flag, which I am the most familiar with, of course. And for the non-binary character, I designed one of my classic alien god characters with a space theme. This was pretty simple, although I did have to do a bit of adjusting of the character design a bit, but I think it's pretty distinct overall. The horns curving into a star might be my favorite element. And yeah, the color palette on this was pretty easy for me to work with. I wasn't like limiting myself super strictly on the color palettes, obviously. A lot of these have like 3 colors, so it's a little hard to work with there. But yeah, I adjusted some of the colors saturation wise and stuff. But yeah, I work with this color palette a lot. so it was pretty easy. This one was pretty hard to work on, the pan flag. This design was actually intended for an entirely different flag. It was going to be the poly flag, but I decided to cut that. But I decided it didn't really fit the flag when trying to add in the colors, so I changed course and used the design for the pan flag. I did still struggle with the colors a bit. I think that just mostly has to do with, like I said, the fact that this one is a 3-color flag and the design's a bit more complex, but I'm happy with the end result. This design is also an Android character, but with a slightly more sporty vibe. I actually drew this one before the buy one, and both of them actually ended up being a lot smaller than everyone else because of this, but yeah, that's a little unfortunate. For the ace one, I went with a ghost character, but because I don't have a specific look for my ghosts, I went a bit extra with it. Gave them some gray skin, ghostly eyes, wispy stuff, a little poltergeisty. They kind of ended up with extra mage vibes as well, and I wasn't sure of what pose to give them or what to have them be doing, so I went with them reading a book. Very simple color-wise. I think the color scheme worked out really well with this one. The Aromantic flag was one of the first green flags I worked on, and I went with a Latourus character. This might not make too much sense, but the majority of my Latourus species are actually aromatic, or somewhere on that spectrum. The design was super simple, but it was fun to draw a Latourus in a palette I normally wouldn't. Usually I go with blue, but this one's green, so yeah. And I enjoyed having a simpler design to draw for this one. It was very simple. I didn't have to focus too much on it, like the clothes, so I could just make this skin and hair sparkles shiny. Next up was Ace Arrow, and mostly because I hadn't drawn a character with the species type up until now, I went with a dragon. Unfortunately, the theme was a bit hard to come up with, so I procrastinated on that until I had to add the background elements. Then I went with just like a geometric shapes. The shape here was kind of the most complex, although there was another one that might have been even more complex, but yeah, I really like this one, and the color palette of the warm colors with some pops of blue is really nice, but the blue is still like a warm tone blue. It's a little more teal, so yeah, I like the colors in this one as well. Lots of good color theory going on. For the gender flag, I used a crystalline character. This was a bit tough since the Latourus and crystalline species do look a bit similar, and the flags are also very similar colors, but I think I was able to pull off having the characters look pretty different. Of course, the hairstyles and clothes are different, and their hair is completely green as opposed to a gradient. Of course, a gym theme was natural for this one, and I can't really decide which of the two green ones that I like best. I think I just like them both the same. And I decided to use the crystalline theme again for the gender fluid flag. This design might be my favorite one. I gave them a hairstyle I've never used before, and the outfit was way more intricate and fashionable. Because of that though, it was one of the hardest to draw, and it did take me quite a while. I actually adjusted some of the colors a bit more and the flag behind them, but yeah, the pose was also one of the more complex ones that I had to draw. So even though it was a bit more complex to draw, it is still one of my favorites that I've created for this series. For the Demi Boy or Demi Guy flag, I designed a pastel angel character. I wanted this character to seem obviously more like, at least partially a guy, but designed them more femininely. The wings ended up looking quite nice here. I think they're the best out of all the winged characters I've drawn in this series. And finally, the Demi Girl flag. To go with the Demi Guy flag, go with a shared pastel colors. They are part angel, but to be different, they're also part merperson. I don't know why I chose that for this one, I just thought it fit. The design was really interesting, and the species they're supposed to be might not be super obvious, but I do so like how the design turned out, and I was finally done. So far, I have these designs as individual stickers and mugs, and I'm working on creating sticker sheets, but let me know if you'd like to see these on other merch, or if you want to see other flags. You can find all of these in my shop on my website, and I want to be able to donate a portion of the proceeds I get to LGBTQ+ charities. I'll start with the Trevor Project, and you can tell me about any other charities you'd like to see supported. But I have more exciting stuff planned for this month, and yeah, I hope to see you all next week in the next video. Have a good Pride Month. Bye!